Hi, I'm doing it again, but I forgot to put my AirPods in. So let me do that. Okay, I think I'm connected. Okay, so it is now Friday, March 13th, Friday the 13th. Welcome everybody to both my channels. I'm live on TikTok with Crime Scene Collective and I'm doing live on YouTube. So I'm trying both out. I tried this the other night and I'm trying it all and I'm just going to see how it goes. So today's Friday. So where does that bring us? Today is 41 days since Miss Nancy Guthrie has been sorry. It's been 41 days since she was declared missing, right? So it's been 41 days since the family noticed that their mom, Nancy Guthrie, was missing, right? So that was on February 1st, which is 41 days ago. But that also means that it's been 42 days since anybody has seen her alive, okay? So where does that bring us to today? A little recap. That was in February. The month of February was really kind of up and down with what happened. I flew out there, or not flew out there, I drove out there. I drove 16 hours from Dallas to Tucson, and I spent about 6 days there. I streamed 5 days live, and it was surreal. It's an experience that I will never forget. And seeing what it's like with, feet in the field, feet on the street, being there versus how it's perceived for us, citizens, how we see it on TV or, with the news reports and how, we see it on our computers and on our phones versus how it, is how I can visualize it and show it to the audience live and how it's perceived with once the cameras are down and the reporters put their notebooks away and they say that it's a wrap and they sit down, and I'm not saying anything against them, but it's a very different scene when a different entity can just kind of be like, all right, it's a wrap, let's sit down. And then there's a different crowd that's over there wanting to be like, but what else, and there's people like myself who wants to show the world or our supporters or our followers, this is what it looks like nonstop in front of a house that a person has been abducted and there's no answers. Nobody knows what's going on. They could be murdered. They could be kidnapped. There's ransoms. What does it look like? What does the community look like? This is what it feels like from, a 24/7 kind of feel. And that's what I was kind of trying to bring, for the people that follow Crime Scene Collective and, that are just interested in this. And so, I was showing how when cars pull in and what that looks like and what the attention is. So, I was just kind of bringing that perspective, but I only spent, 5-6 days there. So I can't, sit here and tell you, well, I can tell you all of it. I can't, but I am connected with the rest of the team, the creators that are out there, and I'm watching them, and we keep in touch, and I can give you updates from that. And in addition to that, I am in touch with mainstream media, with the journalists out there, with the producers out there, and we do, we message each other and we bounce ideas off of each other and we bounce leads off of each other, and we'll see what's going on to see if this is we hear something in the news or we get some chatter here and there. We'll be like, hey, is this anything? Or and I'll hear something, and just because I'm an independent person, I'll still throw it to them, and they'll be like, bro, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And rightly so, because I'm not one of them. So good for them to tell me, like, stop, because that's what I need to hear. So I definitely try to do my due diligence and find out what is real and what's not, and try not to push out the BS and try to stick with the facts. I really, really do try to. With that being said, I really wanted to have a scheduled live today, and my angle was to try to schedule it like 8 or 9 o'clock tonight and have everything ready, but I'm just not, I'm not there yet. It will happen. I will have these scheduled, and they will be more precise. They will be on time, and I will be more organized. But again, I'm a one-man show. I do have a team behind me, but for me sitting in front of the camera, as you can see, I am a one-man show. So let's just start with what we know from today. And then, if you have seen my other shows, the other two ones that I did, you'll see that I just kind of bounce back and forth, but I do try to cover what I'm talking about. So from today, little stuff, because I watch what's on TV, I watch other creators, I keep up with the news. And like I said, I try to keep up with the other journalists and stuff and see what information they've gathered from today and what really is a lead that we should be following and what is a flat lead, if that makes sense. One thing that we have noticed is that the Miss Nancy's house has a lot of activity around it, and a lot of stuff that has been kind of in speculation is that, oh my gosh, maybe they're selling the house. Well, okay, maybe, yeah, okay. I'm sitting on a pillow because this chair is just made out of wood, and you know it hurts. So yeah, I'm sitting on a pillow. So a lot of people are speculating all the activity, all these trucks and, electrical companies and pool, whatever, we don't know exactly who they are. We can see that it's maintenance. We can see that they're utility vehicles, a lot of construction workers or people with vests and whatnot, that they're working on the house. But do we really know what they were tasked to do over there? No, we don't, but we can try to guess, whatever, but we don't know. So a lot of people are trying to guess and saying, "Oh, they must be selling the house. They must be selling the house." Okay, that's fine to guess that, but then if you really, really think about it, again, this house has been owned by Miss Nancy for, from what I understand, since 1975. So that would give us what, 51 years of this being a family home. And again, she raised three children there. All three of her children were raised, born into this house. They, got their first tooth there. They rode a tricycle there. They learned how to ride training wheels, and they got those training wheels gotten rid of and learned how to ride a two-wheeler, and, had proms and had their first boyfriend, first breakups and first girlfriend and this and then snuck out for the first time or whatever. That house has memories on top of memories, college, and the first time, let's say Savannah got her first job, first time Annie moved out, first time Cameron, did whatever. Everything is all the memories are under that huge umbrella of that house. And here Miss Nancy's been gone for, let's just kind of, round it down to 30 days. And with the love that we have been kind of thrown at us and shown that they have for their mother, but then they're going to go and throw and get rid of the house just like that. I don't know. Like for me, my opinion, I don't buy it. I don't. And I didn't from the jump when everybody saw these vehicles and whatnot there. Okay. But at the same time, did it cross my mind the more I saw those vehicles pulling in? I was like, wow, could they really be doing that? Because, oh my God, I don't want to think that way, but hey, so that was that. Then today, I'm watching what's on TV on my phone here and there. And there were like four trucks pulled up in the front and some on the side. And I was like, all right, come on, what's going on? So I'm watching the guys on the top of the house. I might even have a picture, I don't know. And I'm watching what they're doing. And I see this one guy kind of poking something down, down, down. And then I want to see if I do have a picture of this, because then there was a gentleman that went into this one portion of the front of Miss Nancy's home, like, the where it's the arch. And okay, so right here. So then the gentleman got a ladder and he went up into the corner, either on that side or that side, one of there. So either there or there, but he went all the way up. So he was like up in this part. So he was like up in this part here. Whoop, 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 whoop. So he was up in the corners, like far, far corners, right? And then I noticed that the string he was pulling from the top the guy from the bottom was pulling that down, and over there, what else? Why, if somebody's getting a house ready to sell, why are they worried about some corner over there with some string? I mean, if the person that's buying the house, you think they're going to be like, hey, honey, you know what? That corner over there, it's a no-go. I can't find myself living in this house for the rest of my life with that corner unless you pull a string through it. No. They're pulling electrical wire because they're putting more security systems in. That's all electrical. They're going to put cameras here, they're going to put cameras there, they're going to put cameras there. That whole house is going to be like Fort Knox, if that's that, you know, lockdown place. It's going to be secured through and through. That's my assessment. I mean, I can't surmise any other reason why they're pulling wires down through and all of this. I mean, is Cirque du Soleil going to live there? Is this going to be a gymnasium? I mean, no, they're watering the plants. They're fixing this up over here, making that. This is not to sell the house. No, this is for somebody to feel comfortable there. This is for somebody that already knows this home but wants to feel more secure there. That's my opinion. All right. So that's that. That's what we saw today. Then also there was some content creators there, and they saw a gentleman walking down the driveway, and he wasn't like a construction worker or somebody that was working on the house. He was more like a maintenance worker for the neighborhood. And they questioned him, and they were like, hi, and they were very polite, and he was very kind right back to them, because kindness does go a long way. And they started talking and all of that. And he said how he's the like the pest control, okay? Because apparently there's a big rat infestation in that area, which that's fine. I mean, it has nothing to say negatively on that neighborhood, or that they're dirty or anything. It just happens because it's the desert and whatnot. So so he was there because that's what his job is. He has to come there. He is contracted bi-monthly by a neighbor, and he would always just kind of cover. He said he would sometimes look over at Miss Nancy's home and just see, what's going on over there. He said whenever he would see her outside, she was very kind to him. She always spoke to him. That he typically would see her in the morning. Last time he saw her was about 8 months ago. They asked him if she used any walking devices. He said the times that he saw her, she did not. He said that maybe one time she maybe had a cane, but he wasn't sure. Otherwise, that she used no walking assistance, that she was very spiritful. She was exciteful. She was outside in the morning. She always said, hi, how are you? She was very polite. Sweet lady. He talked to her. He said she was very mobile, no cane. He has seen her 3 to 4 times over the last 3 years. And because he was the pest guy over there. And the last time he saw her was 8 months ago, because he is not contracted for her house specifically, just the house next door. But he did kind of look over there just in case. And he did say just today at the neighbor's house, he did collect 13 rats. So that is kind of a lot. So that is something. Let me just look at some of the messages I have. And Karen said, maybe Annie and Tommaso will sell their house and move in there and wait for however long it takes for Nancy to come home. Yes, that's a great possibility. The other possibility is, what if her son is in the house? Something that was, my mouth is very dry. Let me just take a sip here of my water. Chugga, chugga. So here's another thing that was brought up. And then Karen, you say it too, or Cameron or Savannah will keep it and stay there when they visit Tucson still, while forever waiting for mom to come home. Absolutely. Why not just savior of the house for the grandchildren or whatnot. It's still a beautiful home that has been in the family for upwards of 50 years. Why not just hang on to it, or give it 6 months, give it a year, and then if it's too hard, or if it's just, too hard for the family, or if the memories are just falling on them in a negative pattern, or if they're getting too much from the media, then yeah, maybe make a decision at that point. But 30 days into it, I don't know. That's for me, it just would be too difficult. Also, we know that Cameron, her son, has taken Miss Nancy's vehicle, and from what I understand, is just driving it around, which again, that's his mom's car. He can do with it whatever he wants. But some people are thinking that that's kind of atypical as well. Not for me to judge. We have another comment here from Sister Iris. Cameron is retired, and they think that he might be moving into Nancy's home. So that's something I wanted to mention as well. There's been some chatter that a couple nights ago, and I did try to verify this from one of the creators that do what we call night shift over there, but he did not respond back to me. But what I heard is 2 nights ago, there was a light left on in the home. And what I was trying to get clarity on is if that light was just on in one room, or if the light kind of turned off, and like if they noticed it turn on then in the kitchen, and then in the bedroom, like, and then in the bathroom, like if there was a pattern to it that somebody was, just living in that house, watching TV, and then getting something to eat, and then going to the bedroom, brushing their teeth, going to bed. If there was a pattern to that light, or if somebody just said, hey, you know what, we should leave the little side light on in XYZ room just because, so that's what I was trying to get clarity on, but I was not able to get a response. So if you see this and you know that I was the one that wrote you, please respond to me. Doubt you'll see it. I've got 4 people here. So thank you for the 4 people that are watching. I really do appreciate it. Every watcher counts. Please click to subscribe and like that button. And thank you guys all on the TikTok too. You guys all matter. I appreciate it. So the other thing with Cameron is, another thing we find out is he's retired from the National Guard. Well, holy Toledo. Why? Like, as soon as I found that out, in my head, I imagined Cameron sitting there, like with bullets, like crossed on him like that, with a helmet, with a machine gun, and, lights dimmed, with, night vision goggles on, and, a bottle of water, and just sitting there and saying, come back, mother freakers, come back. I'm here waiting any minute now. I don't care. And okay, and that's all I wanted to say about that, because why wouldn't a son wait for his mother to come home, or for their mother's abductors to come back? And why would they come back? Well, that would be kind of silly, right? Why would they come back? Why would they strike again? And that's kind of curious. Well, today we get information from the sheriff that he's now putting the statement out that they might strike again. Who is they? Who are these they? So are they a they? Are they a he? Is there more than one person? Is it several? Is it a duel? So now he's instilling the fear into his community, saying, well, we now have a reason to believe that they may strike again, or he may strike again. Bro, you didn't even tell us who they are, or why it happened, or where the first strike happened, or what the resolve of it is. And now are we considering it a cold case? But now you're telling everybody it may happen again? Whoa, pump the brakes. I've never heard of something like this. And if anybody else has, just shut me up and say, yeah, this is typical. Don't worry about it. Just do your thing, and let Tucson do their thing. And trust me, I'll just back off and be like, okay, if this is normal, then this is normal. I've never heard of it. Like, we don't even have any information. We can't figure out the DNA. We can't figure out the whys. We don't know what's happened. We don't know this. We haven't even released the car that we took, which is the daughter's car, but we've cleared everybody. We've cleared everybody, but we're not releasing anything. And now we're going to tell the whole community that, look, they can strike again. Whew, I don't know. To each their own, I guess. Um, Karen says, is it odd that Annie's car is still being investigated? Well, to me, it is a little bit odd because now they're, from what I tried to look into it today, and from what I'm being told and what I'm reading about, is that it's with a mechanic. Well, why is it with a mechanic? And so then I looked into that, and I was being told that it's with a mechanic because when they bring it into impound, they take everything apart. And Karen, I think you remember with the other white car that we know about, they took all the panels off, they took everything off, and then they have to put everything back on to return it in its original form. So I think it's with the mechanic now to put the car back in its original form so it's safe and sound. So when the person that owns the vehicle, when they drive it, nothing happens to them and there's no liabilities. That's the best, like, that's just from my head. And it seems like that's plausible, right? Like they have to make sure it runs through the diagnostics and make sure that because they had to take it apart, that now the way they put it back together, I mean, they're police officers, so maybe they have to run it through a true mechanic to make sure when they return it to the owner that nothing happens to them, because that's just going to fall on them. And at this point, I don't think they can afford any more problems. So we have Sister Ira say, I heard something that sounded logical. What if the family knows Nancy is gone and wants to have a private service before they tell the world? That sounds very plausible too, because we see how much attention is being brought on this case, and maybe they just want something private and for themselves, which I totally can agree and understand. But with that being said, Sister Iris, do you feel that with all the attention that's been, like media attention has been at the house and this and that, do you think that they have had time to, do a distraction thing like, hey, media's here, let's bring everybody here and have our service while everyone's still at our house? Because now nobody's at the house. So now the attention is literally going anywhere and everywhere because nobody can even get into that neighborhood. So now's the time where people will be paying attention to, places where services can be held and stuff like that, because where else are they going to go? They had the time to do the services when media was sitting in front of their house. So I don't know. I mean, that's a great question, but the media is following them now because they can't go anywhere else. Let's not forget, or the law enforcement kicked media out. They don't want them in there. From what I understand, News Nation was the last man standing there, and I spoke to them today. They're leaving tomorrow. So, and it's 11:38 my time, PM. So that's it. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're wrapped up and they're leaving Saturday tomorrow. They're done. So at this point, that leaves just local news there and the creators. What other questions do we have here? I would think that, Iris says, I would think that they have to have found something that made them take the car apart. One thing they check for is blood mileage and stuff, but to take it apart, yes. And to have it this long. I mean, I don't remember the exact date that they took it, but I feel that they've had it a month. Can somebody correct me or let me know how long that they've had it? I think it's been a month. That's a good question too. Where is I believe his name is Charles. Is it Charles Guthrie? Where is he buried? That's a great question. Really good question. So with that being said, and I know a lot of people don't like me saying that, I'm going to keep going. Last thing I stopped on was the instilling the fear into the community by saying they may strike again. And that to me, I just find very odd. So that's that. Now, the other thing I spoke about the other day, and I don't I don't have it on this phone because I'm using the TikTok on the other phone, and I probably didn't send the pictures to myself, and I meant to. But when we receive, so with the Nest camera, the Ring camera, when there's a notification at the door, we receive the notification with a thumbnail. And I spoke about that the other day, how no matter what, even if you don't pay for the subscription, you still get something and it lasts for 24 to 48 hours, no matter what, especially if there's a person there. It drops down that thumbnail. And that is just it. And I tested it. I did it for myself. I walked out the door with a hood on me just to see if it would be like, oh, that's definitely somebody we don't know, because it does start registering familiar faces, and it kind of drops down when it's like, oh, I've seen you a million times. You're just McDonald's, or stuff like that. So I put the hood on and all that, so it wouldn't be like recognize me. So it would definitely give me that thumbnail, and I got the thumbnail. And so all of a sudden today, we hear that now they do have additional footage. And it comes from the night of that, hold on, the night prior to when Miss Nancy was missing, like bits from even that evening, all of that, except for the exact time frame of her being abducted. Do I believe that? I'm not going to say either way. However, what they did tell us is they don't have footage. They don't have still images. What they do have is thumbnail images. Exactly what I said on, I think it was Monday, that they will always get those little drop down thumbnails. So now they're telling us, hey, guess what? So we went back and apparently we got thumbnail images from that night of several of Nancy's cameras. And what I think they said is even from the back. So thumbnail is thumbnail. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, tell me a thumbnail is not going to tell you, like, you still can't distinguish what sort of activity is happening in that little dotted picture, especially if you're a criminal investigator. If this is a case as high profile as this, you're not going to look at that and be like, let's get a million eyes on this. Let's get the most professional eyes on this and compare and contrast, do whatever we can. What can we deduce from these pictures? Let's put them all up on a wall. Let's, do whatever we can. Let's print them out. Let's take a whole room out. Let's take a factory out. Let's put them all up. What do we see here? But instead they're like, yeah, but they're just thumbnails, so we can't really figure out what they are. Like, why is everything that they give us always a negative, it's like a negatory connotation to it. Like, but that's all we got, guys. Thanks, folks. Dun, 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 dun. Why is there no like positiveness to this? Like, hey, good news, everybody. We got more a video and it only gave us thumbnails, but don't worry, community. We think we can find some information with these thumbnails. Please, have faith in us. We want you to know you're protected. No, instead they're like, but it's just thumbnails. And now we think that they're going to strike again. Good luck. Godspeed, community. Godspeed. Like what? Okay, that's that. So that's what I wanted to say to that. Let's see. So, the other thing about the thumbnail, like if they took them all and put them up, they could probably see if she was convinced to walk out, or if they convinced her, or if they carried her out. We've been told, or I've been told that there's a bed sheet missing. It was never clarified if it was a fitted sheet or just the flat sheet. So could this explain where the sheet was, what happened with the backpack? How many people? Was there one image with a person with a backpack, without a backpack? Like, come on, thumbnails is a thumbnail. Like, for content creators on YouTube and whatnot, thumbnails is what is used to set up all this other stuff from what I'm learning. Like thumbnails is still a thing. We can still see stuff with that. Magnifying glasses, like, I mean, bifocals, all of it. So that's all that. I will move on now to, oh wait, hold on one second. Karen says, if there's chatter of an arrest coming, so they mentioned if there's chatter of an arrest coming, they don't think that News Nation Brian Enton would be leaving. That's right. There was also mention of, so that's a great point, Karen. So the other stuff that we've been mentioned today is of a blue vehicle. So there's a neighbor in a opposed, like it's still like that neighborhood is pretty big. So when I say that the neighborhood across, so it's kind of like not the neighborhood across the street or across the way. It's just the neighborhood that's not that close to where Nancy lives. You just kind of got to drive around and about and go a little bit around the way. So it's still the same area, just a little bit over. So there's a neighborhood like few streets over that's connected to the neighborhood, but across the way. And apparently they've been to one of these neighbors' residents 12 times, if not more, and asking to view their footage. And they're interested in a blue Ram truck. And so I knew about this several days ago, but it came from somebody else that they didn't want to share it. So I was not going to share it. But now that it's on, I don't know if anybody's information is on here, but what is this? Is this TikTok? So it's on sources like this. So I will speak on it. So now we have also some information that there was 4 other routes or vehicles that they used, and they have 228 as the pacemaker was disconnected. It was on Twitter. And they have a vehicle that was headed north, and then they have another vehicle that turned right, heading away from north at 2:52. Vehicle turned left to right towards north, like all this stuff. And then finally at 4:07, the vehicle went somewhere else. And then I will show you this picture. So just give me one second, because you guys are like, what the hell is she even talking about? So here it is. Hold on, let me figure this out. Hold on. Okay, can you see that? And it says updated today. I will show you guys one second. Okay. And then it went away. So what that means, I have no idea. But it definitely means something. And now knowing that they were at this one neighbor's house 12 times, asking for their footage and looking for this blue truck, which is a Ram, it's got to be something, right? I don't know. So that was that. So do I have more information? I do. I would like to share a theory that was shared with me as an alternative theory, as in, what if Miss Nancy is alive? Because a lot of us think that, that she is not with us anymore, right? So that's where everybody's mind is, because it's been, it's now 41, 42 days, 42 days since anybody has seen her alive. So that's where everybody's minds are, is that she is no longer with us, and everybody's planning the funeral. hold on, the camera on your right, not on the left, we can see it. I'm trying. And so, you know, everyone is planning the funeral. When Savannah went and did one of her videos, she said, please bring her back so we can celebrate her. You know, we're looking between the lines and all that. So what if we entertained or kind of thought about an alternative theory if Miss Nancy was alive? And I'm not saying that she is. I don't have any information about that. I just want to kind of speak on the alternative and something that, you know, was brought to me, and just let's just explore it, okay? Okay. Let me wet my whistle. Thank you guys all for joining and liking and subscribing. Please share it and tell everybody I'm here, and I'm going to share a really wild theory with pictures. Okay? All right. So, on February 11th, we heard that there was a safe flight, I think it's called, that was called to the Rio Desert in Mexico, and they had to, and it was for an 84-year-old woman, and from what I understand, an 84-year-old white woman that needed medical attention in the Rio Desert on the Mexican side of the border, and a safe flight helicopter had to go and help her. This was on February 11th, okay? So here's the picture. I'm going to try to get it right. I mean, this just shows like, okay, you guys can see the border. Were you able to see it? Okay. Okay, so they could have brought this woman back to a Mexican hospital or taken her back across the American border to an American hospital, right? I don't know who she was. And again, we're just talking on an alternative theory here. This is all this is. So they could have taken her to a Mexican hospital, thinking, like, in my head, I'm like, if she was, you know, she didn't speak English and she was a Mexican native, then perhaps they would have wanted to bring her to a Mexican hospital. But they brought her to an American hospital, okay? And then from the research that I did and the questions that I've asked, and this was back when I was in Tucson, okay? So the last week of February, like around February 23rd, this is when I was asking those questions. And I was told that one of the creators that were there, they drove to the hospital where this life flight went, and they saw nothing there. They didn't see any commotion. They didn't see any police. They didn't even see like a helicopter bringing somebody in, or really not much activity. So they kind of thought, well, maybe it really was, excuse me, just an older woman that maybe was walking and collapsed and was dehydrated, and that's it. End of story. We're done, right? And that was the end of that. So we're done with that part. And then, okay, and then we kind of get to being in Tucson, right? So here I arrived to Tucson, and like I was saying before, it was really bizarre to me how they were pushing the media out. And, here I arrived on week, 3, and they're already barricading the road, saying it's going to be a one-way now, which should make it more difficult for media to park, kind of hoping that they're not going to want to stay there that much longer, because how are they going to get in and out? You have to walk so far, this, and that. Well, everybody still kind of figured out a way. Well, a week after that, they said, well, guess what? We're not going to even allow that. Now we're taking the barricades down. We're putting the road back to original direction. And if you want to come into the neighborhood, you have to get an Uber. You have to show that you are a resident, or you have to be like an Amazon driver, and so that made literally all media leave except for one who was invited to stay at one of the residents' driveways. So everybody left pretty much by day 30. And what else happened around day 30? The family came and paid their respects. They looked at which was beautiful. I'm saying nothing against it. That was wonderful. But this is, again, I'm just going by this theory that I was told. It's like planned, it's calculated, right? So going back to February 11th, when 84-year-old woman was found in the desert, and typically media should have been like, holy Dumbo ears, let's all fly over there. We got an 84-year-old woman in the desert, and who are we looking for? What are we all doing here? We're all looking for an 84-year-old woman. Holy smokes, guys, let's go. But nobody cared. Nobody cared. Is it normal to find an 84-year-old woman in the desert over there? If it is, then okay, but I don't think it is. So, okay. So what did they do? All of a sudden, after telling us for 11 days that they don't have any video footage of, sorry, I know there's something here, saying 11 days, nothing uploaded to the cloud. They don't have any surveillance. Something went wrong with the camera. We can't show you anything. All of a sudden, voila, they're showing us not only a picture, but a whole video of a guy walking up to the door and going to the camera and messing with the camera and finding some bushes over here and scrubbing them, like this whole thing. So everybody in the media and all that is like, holy cow, we got a person, we got a suspect. And that's where everybody's attention went. Nobody's attention went to that 84-year-old woman, who is pretty much what we're supposed to be looking for, isn't it? Hello? But now everyone's paying attention to this video camera. So everyone forgets about said 84-year-old woman. Okay, so that's that. I know there's something on here. Let me just add a little looky, because I don't want to have that thing flying around. I don't want to be vain either, but no, it's not there. Okay, so that's that. So that's the 11th. So that brings us to week 2. And, we know that the daughter's a national TV correspondent. So she's very familiar with the timelines of all this and how things unfold and how long things happen here and there and how long media will sit in front. Don't think for a second that in her beginning days, she wasn't sitting out front of people's houses too to get established. Everybody did it. I'm not saying anything negative on her. She's an amazing journalist. That's why she sits at the desk that she sits at today. She worked her way up there and she deserves to be there. God bless her. And I hope her mother comes home safely if she isn't already. With that being said, this was the alternative theory seems strategic. So again, 3 weeks, barriers. 4 weeks, let's get everybody out of here. Let's do a whole, okay, let's, do a kumbaya thing. And then now 5 weeks, 6 weeks, let's get this whole house secured. Let's clean it up. Let's spare no expense. That's the only thing I hear echoed in my ear. Somebody saying, spare no expense, do what that house should have had done to it 20 freaking years ago. I don't care if you want to put cameras under her toilet, in her toilet, on top of the toilet, in her sink, on her lights, over here, over, put them everywhere. I don't care. Do it. I want that whole house secured before she comes home. This is working that alternative theory. Again, this could be just totally, like Armageddon-ish, like resurrectionists. I don't know. So with that, what else? Iris says, do we know exactly what happened with the pacemaker? Was it a spike or was it disconnected from the device it was attached to? If it was a spike, like people said in the beginning, I think she's gone. Okay, that's very interesting to say. Thank you, Iris. So with one of the interviews that Brian Enton did, there was a neighbor and her sister had police and FBI go to their house, and I believe it was the sister. And one of the things they asked the sister is, does anybody here have a pacemaker? Something like that. And I think he asked Brian Enton asked his colleague, Maureen O'Connell, what is the purpose of that? And she said, well, maybe they had an RF scanner or something to maybe indicate a distance, like, if somebody in my house has a pacemaker and if FBI is, so outside is right here, if FBI is standing outside of my house with that RF scanner, can they read a pacemaker in this house or will it read dry? So maybe they were trying to indicate how far they have to stand from each residence to see if a pacemaker will read positive. So they were just trying to, do a process of elimination on which house had pacemakers and which didn't. So if that sister would have said, yes, there's a person with a pacemaker here, I think they would have just used that house as a trial and error on what they could figure out with their scanner with a house that has a pacemaker, because we have to remember an elder person being kidnapped or abducted is just not something that we're used to. The last time an older person was abducted, I believe it was in 1988, and it was in Wyoming. And I believe she was kidnapped for 3 days and she was returned alive. Prior to that, I actually have it, and it's really interesting. I was saving it for another time. So it's Helen Brock. So I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Brock candy, candy corn, all that candy, the Brock, like the candy you buy for like the school bus driver, stuff like that, or some of us do, Brock candy, B-R-A-C-H, Helen Brock. So she was kidnapped and abducted in February 17th, 1977. And the reason I feel like this is kind of connected or not connected, or it has a similarity, is only because of her, like who she was in society. She was, she was very wealthy. She was, she had the stature, and nobody ever found out anything what happened with her. Was there a ransom letter? I would have to finish reading all that, and I don't think there was, but there was people that would come out and say, I have her, so there was vocal ransoms, stuff like that. So typically in any training, yes, of course, all law enforcement should be trained in any abduction and all that, but come on, I mean, they're trained to a certain point, and we can't really throw it on them and throw it in their faces like, you don't know what to do to find this older woman. Yeah, no, they don't, because when's the last time in their department has an older woman been abducted? Like, we don't know the age range of the police officers. We don't know who's there and how long they've been working there. Like, what if they're all 30-year-olds? What if they're all 40-year-olds? I guarantee you they haven't dealt with a case like this ever. Nothing against them. It's just, we got to go with what they know. And if they don't know it, then let's help them as a community and not bash them. Like, since when is bashing the right way to go? but whatever. So, with that being said, okay, on that, um, what are your thoughts on the ransom notes? And what if the ransom notes were true? So, my thoughts on the ransom notes is since the beginning, I always thought the first one had something in there that rattled the family. And then I thought the other four subsequent ones were, they tried to make them seem just as important as that first one, but they fell flat. And then law enforcement, FBI, and all the professionals were like, yeah, I guess we should have never put that much emphasis on the first one because they tried so hard on the subsequent four that they, that they made that first one seem, that they debunked it. But what was it in that first one? So in that first one, they spoke on Nancy's Apple Watch. And for a lot of us, I guess, Fitbits, Apple Watches, everybody or majority of people, 9 out of 10, charge them at the foot or at their nightstand or in the kitchen or in common areas like that. But for Nancy, she charged hers at the foot of her bed. And that's what they mentioned in the first ransom letter. And that was enough information for the family to be like, oh, they know, they were there, they were in her room, they definitely took her, because who else would know that she charged her watch at the foot of her bed? But then the subsequent ones, I think, kind of debunked that. But that still was said in the first one. So I want to mention that the DNA. So we do know that they have, that they're pulling the DNA and they're really trying to run it. So there's a lot of conflict with the information with this. And I can understand why, absolutely. For the people that, so I was on the Idaho case. I know that case through and through. And of course, for anybody else that followed that case, we know the word Othram, right? And we know that Othram ran DNA. And I mean, we know they didn't solve the case. So, but we know that they had a lot to do with solving the case. And we know a lot about IgG, right? And which is investigative genealogy or genetic genealogy, investigative genetic genealogy. So what is that? So the best way and like the easiest way I can say what IgG is process of elimination. So think of it like, you get somebody's DNA and we can't find it. We don't know who they are. So let's pull it and let's pull everything out of there that we can figure out. And now we know they have blue eyes. We know that they are probably between 5 feet and 5'3". They are, their skin is green. They probably have orangish hair. They probably carry a lot of earwax. So that's why they have orange hair. They're going to take all of these like kind of like very strong qualities or quantities or, I don't even know the right word, but they take these things, which is the DNA, they pull this stuff and then they try to match it with the other sectors of the DNA. So if they see that this person only had one sibling, then while they're pulling it and they find a person that matches it that does have one sibling and does have the same buildup of earwax and does have the green skin and does have, everything else, well, guess what? Process of elimination brings them to, hey, let's put them on the board. This might be our person. But if they find all those things and then this person has yellow skin and doesn't have earwax and has, magenta eyes, then they could be like, they only match 50%. We're going to put them on that board. So I'm hoping I make sense in some realm with that. So it's not that DNA in this, the IgG DNA is a positive, like, oh, we're just going to get it. They have to deduce it. They have to pull and pull and pull and like take away and really, really pull everything apart before they can bring that final sector together to be like, I think we got something here. And that takes a lot before they can do that. So this is perhaps why they're telling us it could take months, it could possibly take years. But I also don't know if they're being like, because there's other things too. They're saying that Nancy's DNA was mixed with the perp's DNA. Well, with that being said, and what we do know about IgG, they can spin it. This is stuff I learned in chemistry class when I wasn't paying attention. Like, you can spin male and female DNA out of each other. So why are they trying to confuse us by telling us that it was mixed together? That's not, that kind of seems not fair to us either, as the citizens trying to help while we're being literally asked to help by Savannah, the daughter. So either tell us exactly what's going on, or just say, look, we don't know, or we don't want anybody else to know. This is a high profile case that's just going to be zipped from the top. Bye. The other thing that I heard the other day too is that it's a gagged, the department, the precinct is gagged. Gagged by who? A gag order is issued by a judge. So who gagged you guys? Because I, I didn't see no red ball and black straps across your faces. Who gagged you? I didn't gag you. You gagged yourselves. What are you afraid of? Another thing I wanted to bring up, and I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, when I gave that 30-day timeline on how I think that, they really wanted this a wrap at 30 days, I spoke to somebody that was there, that's on scene. Today's Friday, so on Wednesday, which was the 11th. So I spoke to them on Wednesday, and I know this might sound like a game of telephone and all that, but trust me on this, please. Like, I don't just skip around and try to find whatever I can out just to engage. Like, I get my facts. They were interviewing a local that lives right there in the neighborhood, and this neighborhood, or this neighbor, was trying to get in touch with the sheriff and the FBI. So again, this was on Wednesday, the 11th. And this person had information that they wanted to share with FBI and the sheriff. And they were basically blown off. They said the sheriff department hung up on them, and the FBI kind of said, well, you're just going to have to call the sheriff with this. Like, we're not really working it as strongly anymore, and just giving the cold shoulder. And I asked, how many days ago did that happen? And they said 11 days ago. So where does that bring us? Oh, that brings us to that 30-day timeline, which was March 1st, right? Exactly when I said, when they were just done, get it done. You guys got 30 days. I'm going to give you 30 days and get everybody out of here, because now I want to secure the house. I want to get it ready. I want this neighborhood. I don't want anybody here anymore. This is in case Miss Nancy's coming home, because when my mom comes home, I want her to feel like she's coming home to her old neighborhood, to her old house, just like it was when this terrible travesty happened to her. Like, it was bad enough. Let's not have this whole circus surrounding her either. Can we just do that, please? Is there anything you guys can do to help with that? And maybe the sheriffs and all that were like, yeah, we'll get them out of here. So when you bring her home, none of this will be here. It'll look just like it did when she was abducted. I don't know. I could be wrong, but what else is going on? And why is nothing else happening? I mean, they're scaring people by saying it could happen again. The community is nervous. The neighbors are scared. They're literally verbatim saying they're buying extra security systems. They're locking their doors. They're doing more, getting more lights, even though there's a light ordinance. All this is happening. And why? I mean, and I'm hearing about the neighbors buying the extra security systems and not feeling safe, and even looking into getting guard dogs. I heard about this 2 days ago. And then today, the sheriff releases saying they may strike again. Again, who is they? I mean, they never even profiled them. They never even gave anybody a description. Nobody even knows what to look for. They don't even know who are they looking? Are we looking for a shapeshifter? Are we look? Are we looking for like what are we looking for? Like so I don't even know what to say. They can't even tell. They couldn't even give us a true height. They couldn't even give us a race. They couldn't even give us eye color. They could give it now. They're saying maybe they stuck a mustache on. No, because for people that really know this stuff in a camera, it would show the glue again on the thumbnail, all of that. People have cameras. We know this stuff. I mean, he didn't have that. You guys are seeing a mole on his eye, but you're seeing you couldn't see that he stuck glue on his face. Bruh, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, it's been an hour. I really appreciate everybody sticking around and watching. Please, please, please subscribe, share this, tell people to subscribe to our YouTube. I appreciate all of the TikTokers. Thank you so much for the support. Click it, click it, click it, like it, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. I will be back. I'm hoping to do this every other day. Send me your questions, send me your thoughts. Don't forget to go on our website, www.crimescenecollective.org. And we do have a Facebook group for this case. It's Nancy Guthrie's missing, Savannah Guthrie's mom, case discussion. But don't forget, make sure that we are the admins. Otherwise, I am not responsible for what happens to you. Thank you and good night. Bye.